Right, if you're struggling to grow your chest, back, delts, whatever it may be, this video should help you in some way or another. So the last video I covered kind of my sort of lower session, how I kind of run things, how I kind of like wee cues that I use here and there to kind of help my movements, all that kind of stuff. So today, plan is same situation but with an upper session. So upper session, of course, being pretty much everything upper. Now everything in here is pretty much covered in terms of kind of like delts, chest, back and arms as well. I probably won't run through the entire session, reason being it's a pretty lengthy session, to be fair. I think it's 9 movements in total, so chances are if I ran through all 9 it'd be a pretty long video, right? So my plan is I'll run through maybe one chest, one back, one side delt, then possibly one bicep, one tricep. So 5 movements in total. On top of that, a wee kind of physique update from myself. So I'm 82.9 kg this morning. I did see 82.65, that was a new low, that was yesterday. This morning back up a touch to 82.9. We're still feeling very lean, to be fair. At the same time, plenty more work to be done. But I will catch you in the gym. Right, single arm machine pull down. Now for me, personally, I'd definitely say kind of top 5 favourite movement, to be fair. Especially on the actual good quality bits of kit. So just now, Nautilus Nitro, this just got brought into the gym and it is unbelievably good. I've used it before, it felt very awkward before. Trying it today, after a while, it feels absolutely class, so I'm pretty buzzing, to be fair. But you see it a lot done in, say, a cable machine, right? Everyone does single arm cable lat pull downs or single arm machine pull down, whatever it may be. Like everyone does either cable or machine, always this exact same movement, right? Now, the biggest thing that I see is people bringing their elbow way behind their body, thinking, right, okay, I'm getting the weight from here all the way back here, when really there's just no need whatsoever, right? If you're trying to target your lat, your main focus should be bringing your elbow down into your hip. Once you're down into your hip, if we come back a little bit and sort of kind of contract your lat even further, by all means, if that works for you, go for it. But your main focus should be dragging that elbow down into the hip, not back behind your body. You'll see it so often, people going through here and dragging all the way back here. You see it a lot in cable movements especially. With machines, it's a little bit kind of harder to actually do that. It will probably feel extremely awkward. But a cable movement, definitely see it in cables, people going from like here all the way back here, trying to get behind the body. There's just no need at all, right? So think about your elbow, dragging your elbow from here down into the hip. I took a clip basically kind of side on to kind of show you what I mean, basically anyway. But it's like dragging your elbow down into your kind of back pocket essentially rather than behind your body, right? And on top of that, think about basically driving your knee as hard into the knee pad as you possibly can, right? Create a solid foundation on your working side. So to me, I think about basically calf raising into that knee pad, right? So for example, working my left side, right? I'll basically calf raise into the knee pad and create a solid sort of foundation to actually create more power. Essentially, it does work for me. It might not work for you, but me personally, I can find creating a sort of solid base on your working side and then just driving everything through the elbow down into the hip. Right, so single arm cuff lateral raise. Now, the biggest thing for me is definitely the cable setup itself. So the cable stack you'll see here isn't set up at the floor, right? You want it basically at a sort of 90-degree angle from the cable to your hand. So wherever your hand basically ends up by your side, in line with that to deal where the cable essentially sits, right? Now, obviously, it's not going to be absolutely bang on. No one's hand will line up with like exactly the centimetre of the hole. Like, it's not going to happen, right? But have it as close to 90 degrees as you possibly can. So where your hand basically sits, you're trying to create a 90-degree angle from here to the cable stack pretty much, right? So if you watch this clip, I think I'm a little bit lower, but if I go one higher, it actually sits above my hand and it just feels completely awkward, right? So for me, it's one slightly lower, right? So after that, your main focus literally just should be driving from, well, biggest focus has to be basically wrapping your delt round your lat. So it's a cue that I've used for a while now, but basically think about having your delt when you come at the very bottom, rather than just letting your hand go to the cable, think about engaging your lat and try to almost wrap your delt round your lat, and it will help you stretch your lat a lot more, right? Your lat, your delt. Try and think about wrapping your delt round your lat, okay? So basically coming at the bottom, lat's engaged, and let your delt almost wrap round your lat. Right, so when it comes to any sort of flat press, or to be fair, any sort of press for that matter, right? Now, biggest thing again is of course your setup, right? You're wanting the handles to be relatively in line with your nipples, to be fair, right? Which might sound kind of daft, but at the same time, the handle's basically in line with your nipples. Now, when you're coming at the bottom, what you want to basically focus on is having your elbows behind your wrist, having your elbows nice and stacked, right? So say, for example, let's say a Smith machine press, right? When you're at the bottom, you want your wrist to be above the elbow. That'll be the most stable position possible, right? So if my hands are too narrow, what you'll find is you come to the bottom and your elbow's all the way out here, nowhere near in front of your wrist, right? But if your hand's too wide, same situation, it's then outside the elbow, right? So what you want to set up to basically be is handles in line with the nipples, then kind of find the hand positioning that actually works for you, so your wrist is stayed stacked on top of your elbow. Once you have both of them sort of set up, it then kind of creates a more sort of stable foundation to then actually press from. If your hands are too narrow and they're outside or inside, or they're even wider or narrow, whatever it may be, if they're not stacking the elbow, I can guarantee when you're at the bottom of your rep, it's going to feel incredibly unstable and not powerful at all, right? So as you get pretty deep into the set, chances are, rather than taking those sort of 50-50 reps, you'll just feel extremely unstable, no power whatsoever, as your chest actually starts to fatigue. But creating that sort of overall foundation to begin with, 70-30 rather than 50-50, if you know what I mean, having that kind of consistent, solid foundation. So main things being handles in line with the nipples, elbows are stacked above the wrists, you should be good to go. Now, biggest thing as well has to be, of course, effort. You say well, absolutely everything. If your effort is not like top tier, you won't get a lot out of a chest press. If you're just going to half-arse it, leaving like say 5-6 reps in the tank, there's just no point. When it comes to it, when it gets to the kind of 50-50 reps, if you think, you know what, I think I've got that, take it. Don't just go, right, you know what, I'll just leave maybe 3-4 in the tank. Nah, just go as far as you possibly can. As long as your foundation is set, you should be good to go. Right, so this is basically a kind of an upper back row. Well, the upper back row of my session pretty much. First off, I'll ignore the fact I've got 2 separate straps on. I've lost one of each, so now I'm left with one of each to use. It's a bit kind of like OCD annoyance for me, but you know what, it's fine, we'll deal with it. With any sort of like row, obviously you can target your lats, your upper back, rhomboid straps, whatever, right? But with this, it's more so kind of upper back. So when it comes to upper back, our focus should be, of course, scapular protraction and retraction. Now, when it comes to these, you see a lot of people going from, say, starting in this position, and they lean right forward, let the weight basically take them away pretty much, right? You don't want to do that. You want to keep your back relatively upright and let your scapula protract forward. So yeah, you're still kind of rounding the upper back, but you're not leaning into the rep. You see it a lot with a T-bar though, right? People have their chest in the pad and they go right deep into the rep and then right back up. There's no point in doing that, right? So keep your chest on the pad, nice and tight. You're letting your scapula protract, so your upper back, technically it is kind of rounding. What I personally think of is almost kind of wrapping your delts around your chest, so to speak. So the scapula is protracting, letting it stretch out, and then you're retracting and bringing those delts back again, right? You're not leaning forward and backwards into the rep. You're just letting your scapula protract forward and then come backwards. Same situation, try and keep your elbows relatively over your wrist. It will feel a lot more stable than, say, having your wrist like pure bent over like this at the top of the rep. It won't feel amazing. But main focus being for any sort of upper back row is letting your scapula retract forward and then retract backwards. So almost kind of wrapping your delts round the chest and then bringing those delts back. Right, so I actually forgot to record me speaking about triceps and biceps in the gym. I recorded the clips, just didn't talk about them, so that was my fault. But anyway, I'll start with triceps after all my kind of main movements are out the way. So with triceps, now the main thing you see folk doing is basically pulling or pushing, should I say, the bar or the rope, whatever it is, down and then back into their body. So rather than basically pushing down and focusing on your triceps, you're then kind of pushing it down and sort of like stacking the joint when it's like in your body, below your shoulders, below your elbows, your hands finish below all those joints, right? So what I try and do, and personally it works for me, helps me connect a lot better with my triceps in general, is actually mentally think about pushing down and forward essentially. So the cable is technically coming down in a straight line, yeah, maybe back a little bit, but nothing too crazy. And all that's basically doing is stopping the tension from going straight onto your joints and actually being applied onto your tricep. So you'll see in the clip, what I'm basically doing is pushing well, I've got a wee kind of mould grip in them that I really enjoy using, but say for example, even like a rope or a straight bar, whatever, right? Push it down, don't push it down and then pull it back into your body. Just push it down in front of you, and you'll notice at the bottom that my hands aren't below my elbows, or not below my elbows and my shoulders, right? And all that's basically doing is keeping that constant tension straight on the tricep and not putting it on top of your elbows and your shoulders, right? So at the bottom, it should end slightly in front of you. Of course, same situation, you're focusing on a hard contraction at the bottom, of course, through your triceps. And a pretty big stretch at the top, right? But main focus for me is pushing that weight down and slightly forward, so I'm not completely stacking the joint. Now with biceps, what I like doing in this session is a single arm dumbbell incline curl. Now you could do, say, a cable incline curl. I think it's, well, I always say it wrong, but I think it's a Bayesian cable curl, right? Basically where the cable is in behind your body essentially, okay? Now same situation with the kind of dumbbell incline curl, except I do it single arm. Now the reason that I do it single arm is personally I think that my left arm looks a lot bigger than my right. So it allows me to kind of isolate that one side a lot more when I'm basically working each arm. So rather than say doing both dumbbells at the same time, I then sit and notice, right, okay, my left arm is still going here, but my right arm is giving up. I can basically focus more so on that working side and think, do you know what, right, okay, I'm now fully isolating my right arm and fully isolating my left arm, right? But when it comes to these, your main focus should be is keeping the elbow basically behind the body. Don't be like bringing the weight all the way up and having your elbows up to the roof. Like, it's not going to benefit you in any way, right? Our main focus is keeping the elbow behind the body, working the bicep and of course the lengthened position. But main focus being, of course, a full stretch at the bottom. Don't stop, like say 3/4 of the way down and go, right, okay, come back up again. Milk the stretch at the bottom. Get a full range of motion down at the bottom, basically a straight arm, and let the weight just basically hold your arm out straight, pretty much. Fully lengthen your bicep. Sorry, pardon me. Now when you're coming up to the top, as I said before, you're not lifting your elbow up to the roof, you're just contracting your bicep hard. Just because you're lifting your hand higher does not mean you're contracting your bicep harder, right? You need to actually think about, right, okay, my bicep is now fully short, I'm contracting, squeezing it if you like, and then again returning to that fully lengthened position, okay? So getting a full lengthened position, a fully shortened position, but a hard contraction as well. Honestly, like, personally, I think that incline curls are like one of the best, if not the best, bicep movement. For me anyway, I think they're absolutely class. Like the stimulus that you get, solid contraction, solid stretch, it just feels like a really good overall complete kind of movement. Some bicep movements, say for example like a standing straight bar cable curl or something, right, I feel like you can get a lot of momentum out of that. If you're focusing purely on isolating like a single arm, especially with an incline curl, I feel like momentum's just completely gone. And for me personally, it works and I fucking love it, right? So for me, that's the kind of favourite movement when it comes to arms anyway. I have kind of like milked the angle a wee bit to try and get my arms looking even bigger, right, just so you know. But anyway, a really, really good movement. But the plan is now, well, the plan already was now, to get in and do some posing. So what I basically have done is sort of introduced the posing. I haven't spoke through the posing, so if you're keen to kind of find a sort of wee, or see a wee kind of like physique update anyway, that will be the next part of the video. If not though, of course, thank you for watching. I appreciate any subscribes, likes, all that good stuff. Apart from that, I hope you have enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Right, so the plan is now I need to do check-in photos for Finn. So I'm going to set the phone up on this wee tripod in the posing room and have views there on the camera as well. Obviously, I won't be talking. I'm also in the trunk, so they couldn't tell. But I won't be talking. I'm just taking my check-in photos. But again, a wee physique update. So you can see where we are just now and how we're looking anyway.